I know I say that a lot with music, but you know, it has that message that just touches our heart in a way that nothing else can. So last week I talked about how we can be addicted to the drama of what's wrong. What's wrong with our body? What's wrong with my mate? No, never. What's wrong with my neighbor? What's wrong with my job? What's wrong with the world? You know, I mean, there's plenty to be upset about. So it can feel difficult to feel blessed and to remember that we are so blessed. We get jaded. Maybe you don't. But our blessings and remembering our blessings is like a gravitational pull that attracts a cycle of good to us that in turn we then can share. But we have to be disciplined enough to find satisfaction and contentment with what we do have and the blessings we do have. So today, my title is Calling In. And I'm going to talk about calling in, calling out, and calling on. And I got this from, someone sent me this YouTube video from a TED Talk that Loretta Ross gave a few years ago about a calling in culture that we want to create, as opposed to a calling out culture. She's an African-American civil rights advocate and a professor whose job it was to monitor hate groups. She spent time with the Ku Klux Klan as a black woman. And she calls herself, what this work she does transformed her into a reformed call-out queen. Because she used to call them out all the time. She said, when you ask people to give up hate, then you need to be there for them when they do. Like if the Klan hates black folks, I was all right hating them right back. And then I got to thinking, what if we got to know each other? And just maybe then we wouldn't hate each other anymore. I think we all need, in our day-to-day, a moral compass. And don't you think it's time that we shift from hate and division to cooperation and understanding?
Yes.
Right? I think we all want to build a culture in a world that invites people in instead of pushing them out. It's called a calling in culture, she says. So is it really my way or the highway? Can we, she asked, find a way to truly achieve justice, understanding, and cooperation? Well, I think we can, but it calls on our faith. Our faith. What do we have faith in? I don't know about you, but I work on my faith every day because I can get very distracted by what's going on in the world. So faith, Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was an amazing spiritual teacher in the 1920s, she had quite a few books. One was called The Scientific Christian Mental Practices. She said, begin to practice this today. Look into your life, look it over, and see what you lack or fear. And then tell the truth about it, and be firm. She says, and see how it turns out. Because faith means firm. Faith means to bring all things out right. Now, firmness on the side of lack and fear is just stubbornness. Some folks stubbornly believe there's no answer, or stubbornly believe there's no chance, or there'll be no solution. And guess what? Their faith is going to prove them right, because that's what they believe in. I know you've heard this before. Because, she said, they have great faith in lack and limitation, great faith in an obstacle that they believe they cannot overcome. So she says, look into your life, look it over, look at your lack, look at fear, and tell the truth. What is the truth, she said? That God is bigger than your obstacle. The truth is God, or the divine, or the one, or whatever name you want to call it, the Holy Spirit, is the sustainer of life and supplies all the good that we need to have a sustained, sufficient, satisfied life. The truth is, she said, God is our source. We need to keep our eye on the divine and be firm about it. That is exercising our faith. Be firm. Are you willing to try that? I am firm in my faith of the possibility of good.
I am firm in my faith of the possibility of good.
Because we have to call in our faith in our life right now, I believe. And I think you all know what calling out is. You think somebody's done something wrong and they should be held accountable and punished for it. Right? I can't believe you just said that or did that. You are racist, sexist, toxic, manipulative. Well, with this approach, you guarantee one thing. With all the blaming and shaming, you just invited them into a fight, not a conversation. Oh. And some folks think call-outs should be used to hold powerful people accountable. And yes, there's a lot to that. I know I've done that myself. That's what the human rights movement has always done, Loretta said, but most people are calling others out now out of fear. Or they'll feel better about themselves because they're putting someone else down. Well, most of us want all of this division and violence to stop, but we don't know where to begin. So we just stay silent and fearful. And a calling out is not an invitation to grow. And this is the culture we seem trapped in now. Have you noticed? Everybody's calling everybody else out. Pointing fingers, right? But we have a choice. I love what she says. You can say what you mean what you say, but you don't have to say it mean. You can say what you mean and mean what you say, but you don't have to say it mean. Think about that. And a pause gives us a chance to not be mean when we're going to say something. That sacred pause that you all know so well from this study that we do here, right? I read somewhere that the level of discord in our world right now is like the tantrum of a 3-year-old. And maybe that 3-year-old just needs the unconditional love of grandma.
Yeah.
Just maybe. And no amount of blaming or shaming is going to calm this little one like the loving embrace of grandma or grandpa. So we may think the discord is occurring out there, but there's nothing external about discord. We each contribute to it every time we react, cast judgment, project negativity outwardly. The searing energy of reactivity to anyone or anything only entangles and perpetuates the discord within, yielding greater discord without, out there. I know that's hard to hear and take in sometimes, but pay attention, because that's the way the law works. If we're constantly pointing fingers, blaming and shaming, we're just putting fuel on the fire. Take a breath. Because there's good news. I believe there's good news that discord can be healed through spiritual realization. And Dr. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said and believed that when we forget our oneness with God, our oneness with the Creator, our oneness with the Holy Spirit, when we forget, then we experience fear, confusion, conflict. And these experiences we call discord. They're not punishments. We're not being punished. But they're indications simply that we're not in alignment with our true nature. We're not in alignment with our true nature. Can you digest that? Healing discord involves a shift in what? Consciousness and heart, I would say. A recognition that divine harmony already present. When we align our thoughts and with truth, love, unity, when we do that, the external conditions will have to change. But it starts within. Ernest said, the spirit is never disturbed. It is we who disturb it, and the result is discord. Harmony is the natural condition. Discord is the result of a belief in separation. That's it. It's a belief in separation. Oh, wow. As we return to the one, he says we are healed. I've said this before, that I believe we're not in a political crisis, we're in a spiritual crisis in the world. We're forgetting who we are in our core, our nature, of loving each other, holding each other in a space where we can be safe. I welcome divine harmony. How about you? Yes. That's what I want to feed on. So on the other side of calling someone or something out, there's calling in. And basically calling in is a call out done with love and patience and understanding. Because love is the essence of God, right? Love rules through law. Love is the divine givingness, the eternal outpouring of the Spirit through its creation, says Holmes. It is the impulse and the goal of all life. So when you think somebody's done you wrong in your own life, or whatever, and you want them to be held accountable, you don't have to react with anger or hate. You can remain calm and say, wow, that's an interesting viewpoint. I don't agree with that. Tell me more. With that, you opened the door and invited them into a conversation instead of a fight. Right? And you don't have to agree with somebody to offer them loving attention. You don't have to agree. All you're admitting at that moment is that there's a possibility that they're just as complicated as you are. Remember Dr. Joe Dispenza, I talked about last week, said on the other side of your thought is change. So on the other side of something is always change. So we want to be aware of where we're coming from when we have a conversation with others. Everybody, Loretta says, deserves to be heard and respected. And if you use this calling in practice, what you do is several things. First, you'll learn to lead with love instead of anger and allow somebody else to grow. Second, it will affirm your own inner empathy and your kindness and compassion. And you'll feel good about yourself when you learn that you can grow too in embracing and inviting more love into the world. You can call in your friends, your family, your neighbors, your co-workers, all the people that you might have given up on in the past because of how they hurt you. And one of the most effective expressions of calling in is the F word. Forgiveness. Gosh, I woke you up there, didn't I? Forgiveness. Not an easy thing to do, but that's powerful. And forgiveness is a daily practice, let me tell you. Forgiveness offers us freedom, freedom from revenge, freedom from anger, freedom from hatred. Just forgive them. Now, if you're going to embrace this calling in and out practice, she says, it begins with self-assessment. What are your motives? Why are you choosing to call somebody in or out? Are you in a healed enough space for somebody else's feelings? And if not, maybe it's not the right time to do the calling in yet. We affirm our optimism and hope that we can make a difference in the world. So if you're not ready to invest in somebody else's growth with a call in, or you don't want to fight if you call them out, there's a third option. You can call on them to be a better person. Her favorite calling on response is to look the person in the eye, cock her head to one side and say, I beg your pardon, what did you just say? And then she waits. And many times they start walking back their words. Just because she's looking at them like they've lost their mind. So we can use this calling in, calling out, calling on approach as part of the spectrum of responses that we make with each other in all situations. So she had a story about Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank came to a family gathering and decided to talk about how Mexican Americans are stealing all our jobs. And everybody had been chatting and eating quite happily, she said, till his racism silenced the room. Most people just buried their faces in their plates because this was Uncle Frank and this is what he does. And Loretta said, but I decided to respond. Not with anger. And I organized a few comments and I said, Uncle Frank, I know you, I love you, I respect you, and I know, what I know about you is that you would run into a burning building and save somebody if you could. And you wouldn't care what race that person is. You wouldn't care whether they were gay or an immigrant. So Uncle Frank, that's the man I love and respect. So tell me, how can I reconcile that good old Uncle Frank that I know that you are with the words that just came out of your mouth? She says, I didn't call him in. I didn't call him out. I called on him. I called on him to decide how he's going to be. And with this approach, she said, he's less likely to become defensive because I haven't attacked him. And while he's organizing what to say, I affirmed that he has options about how he wants to be, especially in his family's eyes. Most importantly, she said, I didn't let his bigotry go unchallenged. And that was witnessed by the entire family. How we stand up to bigotry or whatever without hate, argument, or throwing the table over. And I did that with my family. I love that story. Because how we respond to someone's talk is important. And being kind. Last week I talked about the story of the spider and the sage. So we can offer people forgiveness and a chance to redeem themselves from their mistakes. We can bless them silently because that's what we do. That's who we are. We offer kindness. The discord at the surface level will end when we metabolize it within, using the unconditional loving embrace of our own presence in our connection with the divine. What if we are here, each of us, on this planet right now, because we have the strength and the courage to do this? If not us, who? If not now, when? Calling in, calling out, calling on. When we call in the love of the Holy Spirit, the divine, we will walk with each other in peace. That's guaranteed. So join me in prayer. I invite you to take a deep breath. Just allow everything I've spoken about today to settle into your heart. To be open and receptive to what is mine to do. How can I be? So I'm going to read a little prayer in the first person, and I invite you to just take it in for yourself. Today, I remember that love is the truth of who I am. I open my heart to the divine presence within me and all around me. I choose to see with the eyes of compassion, to listen with an open heart, and to speak with kindness. Where there is discord, I bring peace. Where there is fear, I radiate love. For I am guided by the infinite, and love is my path, my power, and my purpose. Today, I remember that love is the truth of who I am. And so it is.